welcome everybody to the 15th Render Roast. This is the first one this year, and it's going to be a great one. Up first, we have JC. I'm going to turn on the music just a little bit more. There we go. Alright, JC, thank you so much for submitting this. This is so beautiful. Man, it really looks amazing. I think this was a kind of a showcase of your interior parallax mapping, which is awesome. So amazing work with that. That's some super nice mathy things that kind of blow my mind. In the first thing, I feel like really is, it might be nice to have like kind of a skyline here, like some other buildings. I mean, that's not totally necessary, but really this whole scene, even though there's buildings, it just feels kind of empty, you know? Like this whole area could be a park, like maybe we have a tree, but it's really empty, which does let you focus on the buildings for sure. But giving it some more character, if that makes sense, not so clean, would really help. Also, these are funny. I've never seen those before in this. Chairs. It kind of seems a little bit out of place, but not gonna question that one. Yeah, I think because when you look at a city, there's tons of there's just stuff all over. You got newspaper stands, you've got people standing around. I mean, you have like a hot dog stand. There's just so much life in a city, and this city kind of just is feeling a little bit dead, if that makes some sense. I really like the way that you randomize the inside of the windows. Like some have lights, some don't. That is super nice. And the way that just the lighting, all that stuff is really excellent. So I am really impressed by that. I'd say also it might be interesting to give it, whoops, wrong tool. Give the lighting some more texture, like shadows of trees and stuff, and kind of some reflections off the buildings, because they're glass, so some like caustic sort of things, even if you faked them or did them, I mean, for real, either way, could be really cool. Like some light shining on the ground, look super nice. And I'm a huge fan of this shadow right here. Just looks super good. And I mean, in general, it's so clean, but definitely try and make it more vibrant. Maybe use some other colors like green or red in here in like a park. I mean, this is perfect for a park, and you could fill it up and really add some interest. So yeah, I think that's my big thing for this one. Now your next render, JC. Ooh, so nice. This is one of those ones that I think it should be kept this clean, It's like just looking up, doesn't need all that stuff. So that's perfect in that sense, the style. Got a really nice cloud background that I appreciate. And over here, yeah, the reflections on the windows kind of bend in like real glass panes, which is a super nice detail. So great work with that. And I think, just turning the mic up here. Is that better? Yep, I think that's gonna be a little clearer, hopefully. That's excellent work. The way that these bend in to give each window kind of a separate reflection. And I don't know, this one it's really nice. I think this one has some more, creative things you could do with it, like a park. This one, I think it's really clean the way it is, and you've got some really good stuff going on, so I don't have a ton to say about it. I think in terms of the shader itself, which is, clearly the main thing about, this is a render to talk about the shader, and kind of, highlight that. Uh, it could give it a little more, like, you do have some variation, but just more variation in different ways, like colors of lights maybe, and you could have some windows that are just bolted up. I don't know. Um, but it looks really nice for sure. So keep up the awesome work, JC. And oh, maybe you could make these kind of glow a little bit. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but that could definitely add some more colors and make the scene a little more interesting. Also help really emphasize this nice perspective. If you have these standing out. And over here too. Yeah, that could totally help out, I think. So yeah, awesome work, JC, and thank you so much for submitting these. The next one we're gonna move on to, I don't really remember the order a ton. It might have been this one, by Random Productions. I'm just gonna go with it. Let's see if it is. I think it is. And it's a really nice lightsaber. I'm hoping you were inspired by the latest Star Wars movie. Oh my gosh, so good. The lightsaber battles in that were absolutely just crazy nice. So yeah, definitely feeling the Star Wars vibe, which this is capturing for sure. I love the fog glow you've got in the compositor. That really is, I mean, the main aspect of lightsabers. So you nailed that. A big thing I notice. Whoops. With this render is you've got the shading on the lightsaber is definitely needs attention. I feel like you're using smooth shading, but maybe you're using bevel or something and it's beveling all these edges in here. Yeah, I can't really tell why that's happening, but you've definitely got those little ridges, which I don't think is what you're going for. So try and smooth those out. That'll really help the convincingness and the realism. Also back here, it looks like you've got kind of a gnarly topology mess. You can just tell from these triangle shading artifacts that something's up. So I can't see your wireframe, but I would say definitely try and go back and see what's going on with that, because I think that could be fixed without a ton of work, and it would really help just the convincingness and an overall good feeling of this render. Also, I think the material on the lightsaber hilt, this whole thing is just like the hilt, right? So the material seems just plasticky. I don't think you're using really enough glossiness. It would be a lot easier to use the principled shader than trying to build a shader with diffuse and glossy and Fresnel and stuff. So, and if you're using the principled shader, there's no challenge with just turning up that metal slider all the way and getting a really nice metal reflectance, which you can also turn up the roughness too, so it's not, you don't get these crazy little shiny areas. Because a lightsaber goes all over the place in the desert, and it's not so shiny and clean. And one last thing is lightsaber blades. They are, completely pretty much bright, but there is on the sides a little bit of a color. So the center is going to be all white, right? Which you have perfectly. It's pure white. But then towards the sides, it does actually add a tiny bit of the color of the lightsaber with a Fresnel effect or something. It's still mostly bright, but you might want to try and get a little of that color in the side, which really helps just the color stand out. So yeah, man, nice work, and I think you've got some good stuff going on with this, but you definitely need to revisit the shaders and revisit some of the topology and shading issues in this, which is your two biggest problems right now. But great work, and thank you for submitting. Okay, let's see who's up next. Let me just check Discord real quick and make sure everything's going smooth. But great work, and thank you for submitting. Okay, getting lots of bugging and glitching. Let me just check Discord real quick and make sure everything's going smooth. Okay, I hope it's not too bad. Getting lots of bugging and glitching. Martino, if it's too bad, I'd appreciate a ping, and then I'll try and pause and figure it out. Hopefully it's working okay, but yeah, if it isn't, please let me know. Alright, back to the roast. Next one we'll do, there were a few at the beginning that I can't quite remember the order of. I'm just gonna close them so I don't come back to them again. Let's go with Saber's render. Sabre, Saber. I don't know how it's pronounced. But another awesome car render. Dang, dude, you're really bringing the quality on these. It just looks super good. I don't know if you made the model yourself or if you're just doing the visualization and the rendering. So I'll do some share some thoughts on the model, but most of this will probably be focused on the render itself. So for the model, I don't know if I've never actually personally seen a car with a separate piece for this area, like the extrusion around the wheel. I don't know what it's called, but they've always been flush with the body in my experience. Now it might just be a style thing, but yeah, I think we'll assume that's how it's meant to be. It just kind of, to my eyes, it looks a little bit weird because I've never seen that. The cuts in the body here look super, super clean. No distortion in the reflection, which is really, really nice. So awesome job with that. And I mean, it really looks good. I'd say this could use a little bit more detail, like have a little key thing. And the tires, the model looks great. Maybe have the headlights kind of don't seem to have that shine that car headlights typically have with the like refractor type headlights. So maybe take a look at those, get them a little brighter, a little more luminescent, if that makes sense. But dang, I'd say this really is a good model. For the kind of for the, like, you know, post-processing and compositing over the background and rendering, I think the blur looks, excellent. The blur on here matches up really, really nice with blur on the road, which when I made a car was actually kind of hard to figure out, so excellent job with that. But I'd say really try and, you know, this car's got some awesome curves, like in here, down here. I think you could use some area lights or mesh lights separate from the HDRI, and just really really give those some highlights and emphasize those curves. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of lacking, the car itself, not the whole image, but the car itself is lacking a little bit of contrast. You really want to get some just bright spots, so it just seems as glossy and beautiful as possible. For the background, it does seem like it's more background's a little brighter than it should be, considering that the road is not. It's pretty dark. So yeah, I mean, I guess you might want to dim that a little bit, or you could just do a little vignette in here to kind of. I mean, you have a slight one, I guess. Yeah. So I mean, never mind on that, because you do have a vignette. I see it. But darkening the background and putting some really bright area lights on the car to just highlight those curves would be super effective and awesome. But I mean, really good job, dude. Your automotive stuff these days is just blowing me away. So keep it up, and thank you so much for submitting this great artwork. Okay, we'll go with this one by Yeats right now. It's kind of a particle thing. It looks like you've got that balloon. Maybe some like force fields, kind of doing stuff with particles. I don't know. It looks really pretty, but there's no really form to like follow with your eyes. So when you're doing these particle sims, just kind of keep trying to play with the density of them and the physics and the particles to try and get a really, like, a more cohesive sort of flow and shape with them, so that you can kind of follow it with your eyes, if that makes any sense, like a path, which can be really cool. If it's like, you know, obviously like 3D and stuff. And you do have a little of that with like branching out and coming around, but not a ton. So if you worked on just placement of force fields and, you know, turbulence, that would really help create a more, something that's easier to follow, you know? Also, you could spice things up with different colors, like maybe have, you use the world space and have ones over here be a little more redder, maybe a little more blue over here, and kind of have a gradient between them. That'd be super cool, but always something to think about, just an option. And try and a way you could get some really interest and contrast in this is if you just had some geometry in there too, like not just particles, but if these were like floating around a sphere and like kind of orbiting around it or coming around something, that would help just make it feel more relevant, if that makes any sense. So that's one thing I would do for sure. I mean, it's really pretty. It's kind of like a Starry Night thing. So one thing you could do, for like a nebula or something, which, I mean, because it's, you know, black and blue, kind of reminds me of that, is you could use some volumetrics in here with the particles, like kind of following with the particles or something, which would be really cool and kind of add another layer to just that awesome visual effect, which is something I would totally do if I were working on something like this, because just kind of adding some more elements would just make it more interesting. And also, the particle size, it's not an issue, but it kind of tends to be more interesting sometimes if they're just a little bit smaller, you know? Like, in here you've got some that are, I don't know, 6 or 9 pixels, but when they're really small and really bright, that can just be really interesting. So that's not a criticism, I guess, but it's just something to keep in mind, to be aware of the particle size. And it probably also is depending how far away they are from the camera, so that's a big factor. But you do have some really nice just curves, so I'd go back to this, because I mean, you know, I don't typically go back to art after I finish it. I just move on to the next thing. But this has some really cool potential for like volumetrics and kind of getting a more followable pattern. So that's what I would do. Add some stuff, maybe change up some colors, and try and make it a little more like suck the eyes in for longer, if that makes any sense. Like give someone more to look at than just these particles. You know, keep them interested. So that's my idea for this. Thank you so much, Yeet, for this great entry, and we're going to go on. Okay, this one has another one that I didn't get downloaded yet, so I'm gonna come back to this and go to this one by Captain J. This is quite something. I don't know if I've ever. This is kind of different than the, you know, typical cliches and, you know, in stereotypes in 3D art where you got like lasers and Death Stars and things, but like here's like a funny little character, so I really like that. For me, the most kind of odd thing about this one is that I'm thinking the laser is just coming down here, blowing it up like it's being shot from like, I don't know, something else, right? But really try and get some like smaller particles and debris, maybe use like a particle system and fire and like just some really explosive, you know, shrapnel stuff coming out. You know, if you watch like a, you know, Star Wars movie where someone blows up, which is most of them, you've got the main pieces, of course, that don't break up, but, you know, in between these main pieces, there are just these streams of like, just minuscule fragments, which is what can really make it feel just super powerful, when they're just blown to atoms almost, if that makes sense. So I would, yeah, for sure use some particle systems along here to just really get that impact feeling, and that's the main way you can add more excitement to this, in my opinion. Also, you've got this blue background, which I really like. It's super pretty. I think it kind of deserves more, and it could also balance out the piece more. So I would actually just rotate the background, like, so that this blue cloud is actually up here, which I think would just keep everything a little more balanced in the image, because, you know, you got that laser through the side. So that's something I would do for sure. And, you know, with these shards, the whole thing is pretty shattered. You might have used like the fracture add-on or something. But like even in the horn over here, you don't maybe need to have so many, or at least, so if you're gonna have the cracks, you might have them floating a tiny bit apart, but still clearly in the recognizable shape, you know? But when they're all so close together, it just feels like they haven't moved any, which if they were cracked, they would have. So I'd say either don't crack it so much, or move the pieces a tiny bit so they're kind of offset and it feels like they're floating away. And yeah, man, it's pretty awesome. The laser looks very clean, and the character is, see, I wish I recognized this character. I'm not sure if it's something that, you know, someone would recognize, but being able to see that and, like, you know, give it some context for me personally would be really cool. But there's probably some story, so I'll trust that that's got stuff going on. And I think that's about it for this one. I mean, it's technically pretty good, and maybe the material can be tweaked to be a little more metallic. I don't know, but moving this background so it's up here and makes it more interesting is definitely something I would do. Also, creating just more debris is number one priority in my opinion, because that really gives it the explosive feeling that it needs. So thank you so much, Captain J. And we're gonna move on to another one. I believe this is HB 2009. Yep. And this was a Secret Santa entry for, Secret Santa, which is such a fun event. Really love that. So, I mean, this is awesome. These cookies are, I mean, I haven't seen a ton of CGI cookies, but these might be, the best I've ever seen. If I've looked at them, they really just look perfect. So, awesome job with that. The orange juice really is not as perfect. I'll just say that. There are pretty solid ways to, like Greg Zoll. He's the HDRI Haven guy. Oh, Saber says that the whole model was modeled by him, and the things on the side are called a wide body kit. So unfortunately I can't go back to that, but I just want you all to know that it was modeled by him, and those things, those wheel caps, were intentional. So it does clear things up. Saber, thank you so much. Back to HB 2009. So rendering liquids inside of glass is kind of a classic problem with, just ray tracing and CG. There are a few ways to get around it and make it look like accurately, really, if you took a picture of a orange juice glass, it would feel visually like the orange juice is coming all the way to the edge and not this glass in between, which is really the issue here. And that can be fixed by so I'm not totally sure, I haven't done it in a while. But the basic gist is you flip the normals of the juice so they're facing outside, and then you put it a tiny bit actually overlapping the glass, which makes it feel like it's coming out all the way here. Greg Zoll on his blog, not HDR Haven, but he has a blog too, called Adaptive Samples, has a really nice guide on how to do that. So after this, if I remember, I'll link it to you, and hopefully that can, even if you're not going to revisit it because it was for Secret Santa, that'll give you some future reference for these glass type scenes. Also, we have, this placemat looks really good, dude. That's nice. That texture is excellent. So keep that up for sure. And I mean, really, I think the colors in this are just not as vibrant, Obviously, you've got the lights, but if we went up to even just curves, I think we could make some improvements. I mean, we can try. Let's see how it goes. If we brighten things up. Ooh, no, that's weird. Anyway, I think just doing some post-processing and trying to get the colors as vibrant as possible. Maybe a levels where you bring in these sliders to get a more contrast could help some. And it's kind of yellow, so you'd have to do some color correction too if you're going to brighten things up so this doesn't look super yellow. But that could really help just make it a little more. See, it's kind of washed out. Just making it pop a little bit more is really really a good thing to do. Always. I mean, I basically never just take a straight render and don't do anything into it. You kind of do some post-processing, either with just curves in the compositor and Blender, or in like program like Gimper, uh, Krita, or Photoshop if you have that too. Photoshop is obviously the best. Uh, but I mean, nice work, man. These cookies are just they're fire, dude. Like, wow, that looks awesome. So amazing work, and thank you so much for putting that in there for us to roast. Not a ton to roast, actually, just the glass and the stuff around it. Here we go. This is Lasercat's car, and Lasercat, you're kind of getting pretty good at cars, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really, really enjoying seeing your progress and just how hard you've been working at this stuff. Right now, it's pretty nice. I'd say that the thing that just jumps out immediately, right? There's obviously more. Is it the doors are just the cracks, like where they open and close. The reflections are good for sure, but they're just a little too big. They stand out and make it feel kind of stitched together. So if you really like in these corners and things, if you really kind of made the the doors a little more snug together, that would help it just feel more grounded and realistic rather than modeled on a computer. Also, the same thing applies up here. That's really kind of just not ideal. And yeah, I mean, just take a look at that and try and either brighten them up somehow or just like close it up. I'd say that's a very big thing with this. The hubcaps in here look really nice. That reflection is just on point. And the lighting is actually pretty good, I'd say. The road texture is, I'd say it's okay. I mean, you've definitely got the blur, of course. There's really no variation though, so I don't know. Just maybe use a more interesting road texture if that makes any sense, because like it's pretty clear to see that it's kind of all very consistent throughout, and real roads aren't like that. So if you're looking for road textures, I know that CG Bookcase, the website, has really nice free road textures with like asphalt cracks and stuff. So I'd check that out for sure. The interior of this is one of the best things. Like, obviously it's not super visible, but you've definitely got a few things going on, and it looks solid. So that's difficult, and I'm really impressed that you pulled off that interior looking so well, so good. Because it's obviously not super clear, but you definitely have some good looking things that help make it look realistic in terms of the inner part of the car. Um, let's see. Another thing with this is just the kind of perspective. Like the camera matching doesn't seem perfectly right. I would move the camera up a little bit so you get more of over here, and maybe use a bigger focal length, because right now like this section of the car is just a bit big, if that makes sense. So if you increase the focal length, that would kind of help and raise the camera up a little bit. That would help everything feel a little more settled, I guess. And just more aesthetic. So that's something I would look for. Just keep perfecting the camera techniques. Also, this light is pretty much way brighter than this light. So if the material itself is not doing the trick for getting the headlights to be either glossy enough or bright enough, honestly I'd say be open to and like feel free to break energy conservation with the headlights. Maybe like in the node editor for a color slot, use a value greater than 1, which can make it feel brighter without having to tweak lighting. Um, so, and you could also just add on, use add shader to add more reflections or more glossiness. Really, I'd just say don't feel constrained and trapped inside letting this look not as good as you want it to, you know? Feel free to just do funky stuff to get it bright, even if it's not, you know, mathematically perfect. So, I think you've been doing CG backgrounds too. Like, I don't think this is a plate, which is quite impressive. So yeah, I mean, awesome stuff. It looks really good. You got like wildflowers. Super nice. Well, good job, Lasercar. And there are a few things to look at, but you've made a ton of progress in, I don't know, since I got to know you over Discord. So keep up the awesome work, and we will see you next time. This one is by Mex. I think it was one of the earlier ones submitted, but we didn't get to it until now, so apologies for that if you were waiting for it. But this was for I think it was for a competition entry, and it's really cool to Lasergate stuff. I mean, you guys can see it. I don't need to, you know, describe all that. But, ooh, too big. One thing, so, okay, this is like the jewel that's being protected by, you know, security and stuff. I think just right away you could brighten up like a spotlight maybe up here, shining just bam, right on that. So it's very clearly, you know, the point of interest in the scene. Right now it's like these are kind of bright. These paintings are kind of bright too, so it's like, should I be looking at those, or like, should I be looking at the lasers, or should I be looking at this? But this is, I mean, that's the one we should be looking at. So brighten it up with like a spotlight. That's just one idea. You can always do other things to brighten it up. You even have, you know, some display cases have lights inside the box that are like shining upwards to kind of illuminate it from the bottom, which could be really cool. So just think, if you were to you know, just think about what you could have done better on this. I'd say make sure this is bright. The lasers look pretty good. There's no really glow, but I think that's okay because they aren't very like supposed to be like powerful lasers. They're just like motion sensor lasers. Yeah, they ain't trying to cut anyone apart, but you know, the only way the lasers actually can be seen in a room is if there's like volumetrics, because that's, I mean, how, you know, if it's the light getting bounced back to your eyes by the fog in the room. So I would actually use some, either a mist pass. I think it'd be easier to not use real volumetrics, but to just use like Z depth from the camera or mist pass in the compositor, and kind of just occlude the background a little bit. Make it a little hazy, a tiny bit hazy, if that makes sense, just so we know where these lasers are shining out, how that's working. Also, when a laser exits, that should be the brightest, and when it finishes, oh, they go both ways. Didn't notice that. I was gonna say it should be a little brighter at the start and dimmer at the end, but because they connect up on both sides, that's definitely not necessary. So good thinking with that one. And you know, for I wouldn't really consider this an, you know, an architectural visualization project, but it is architecture, so I think using some of those techniques is always valid. Maybe like have some light back here shining this way to kind of emphasize these curves, not curves, you know, corners in the roof, which can really help just bring out the architectural aspects of this room. Maybe even you know, this is a museum, right? So it's kind of fancy. Sometimes they have like soft lights in here shining down onto paintings. Um, like on roofs and stuff, they could be slightly bright to kind of just add some interest, which is just an idea. But there's some things you could do to really just highlight the form of the room, and make sure, yeah, for sure, biggest thing on this guy gotta just stand out for sure. I mean, Suzanne, he's like Blender's mascot, man. Um, which is an awesome idea, by the way, having him like as a jewel, because yeah, Blender's the best. um, so bring him up, her up actually, it's a her. I always forget that. Brighten Suzanne up, and that's all about all I got. So awesome job. Ooh, I really like that lens flare. It's kind of slight, but it's a good detail. I'm glad you put it in. Thank you, Mex, and we'll see you around in chat. So, we're gonna move on to this one's by Aku. Yes, Aku. Oh, it's just, it's great, really. Just these eyes, man. They just draw you in. It's so nice. So, wow, that is awesome. I really love, you know, I can't tell if this is a cigarette or a blunt, or like, you know, whatever, but that looks really nice. That smoke is just, oh, so clean, dude. Skin texture is on point. What I would say is that you've really got the same skin texture everywhere. It doesn't really feel like it's painted on, or, you know, given a ton of attention to like where it would be more prominent, where it wouldn't be. So I would actually kind of back off the skin texture in areas where it would be a little less bumpy, maybe like the cheeks or something. But definitely, or like the forehead. But keep it bumpy up, you know, here and that sort of stuff. I don't really know a ton about, you know, dog human hybrid facial texturing, but I think you did a great job. Just keep in mind that it could be, you know, more contrast with the texture if you kind of did some funny things with that. The nose looks good. It's for sure pretty, you know, cartoony. But I think again you could make it like, just without, you know, losing the cartoony feeling, but adding a little more detail, could be making it kind of, you know, dogs' noses get like wet and stuff. So if you had that in there, that'd be super cool. But, and the teeth are pretty dull. I mean, yeah, this guy isn't like a super healthy, you know, teeth shining guy. But maybe gloss those up a little bit. I don't know. It's an artistic choice, but you can do whatever on that. And hair is solid. I think you're going for the scruffy look, I can tell, and so you really nailed that. You know, be definitely wrong to say like get that thick, bushy, nice hair. The scruffiness just really works perfect. So I would keep that scruffiness going. Oh, it just looks so nice. Sorry, I'm just trying all over stuff, but oh, it's so good. The eyes just, wow, that looks stunning, dude. So that's about all I gotta say. It's really, really excellent. Just the attention to detail is incredible in here and everywhere, really. So amazing job, dude, and I hope you had fun working on it, because it's something I would have fun working on. So it just seems like a great project. Thank you so much for submitting that, Arku, and we're going to move on to Abysma's renders. Oh, also, guys, we're gonna just take a short break after these, and I'll bring up some more of the renders. We're not gonna be done after these two left. Um, we'll have more. It's just gonna be a short break to get everything set up. So, just letting you know, guys, letting you guys know what's going on. Um, the this is like I don't know. These two are for sure together, right? It kind of reminds me of like a Ruby sort of thing. I don't think that's what it's based on, but like a kind of a cool futuristic gun sort of thing. It's kind of hard to tell. So I'm not sure if like one hand grips it down here and then one hand grips it up here, or like one hand just grips it up here and nothing happens down here. It's hard to tell what's going on, but I'm sure, you know, whatever warrior is using it can figure it out. I guess it just seems really kind of, you know, this is a kind of common thing, but it's just really clean and feels a little bit like a toy. Um, you do have some damage and things, but it's just not feeling the grittiness that a real weapon would have. So maybe just add dirt and make it more metallic. Also try and add, you know, you've got these great, you know, big shapes. That's awesome. I love these big shapes. But try and add more like really small, like tertiary, you know, you got like primary, secondary, tertiary details. And you have some secondary ones like in here and here, here. But maybe some really small details like lettering on like what company made the weapon, or like details like that can really help give something the extra oomph it needs to really stand out. And along those lines, I think it needs, I mean, this goes with the wear and tear, but edge wear. You could either paint it in Blender with like a image texture on the UVs, or you could use Substance Painter if you have that. If you're a student, you can always get a student license for Substance Painter, but you don't need Substance Painter. You can do it in Blender for sure. So spend time on texturing and don't just leave it to material. That's what I'd say. Um, and we're gonna take a look at your character now, because that's, I mean, this is nice. You got, it's a cool gun. So let's go to the character. For this gal, I think it's nice. Um, her eyes are very crossed, which I don't know if that is part of like her character or if that's unintentional. But it kind of looks a little bit derpy, if that makes any sense. Um, Something you can do actually that's kind of interesting is use constraints and track both eyes to an empty object out here. That way you can move this empty around and the eyes will follow it. And if you move it farther away, it'll feel like the eyes are focused farther away. So that's a fun idea that you could do. But you don't have to, you could just rotate them so they're not as cross-eyed. Also, I'd say, I mean, texturing, you don't really have any textures. It's just these kind of flat diffusing materials, which kind of don't, they feel plasticky, which is okay, but try and, you know, there's tons of free textures online for cloth and stuff. You know, even this shirt, um, if it just had some texture, it would look a lot more interesting. In terms of proportions and just like the character design, I think it's excellent. This is super nice. The arms are the perfect length for the torso, leg, this muscle. I mean, and the deformation with the joints, it actually is super good. So, you've definitely got amazing stuff going on with the character design and the modeling and creation of, you know, just this lady. But um the texturing is what's what's keeping it lacking, you know? Because it's so good in terms of the model and the anatomy, really. Also, the hair. I mean, that's all right. It's kind of a cartoony look. I would maybe, even if it's short, add a few just like um, add a few small tufts in here, kind of to balance these out. I mean, yeah, they're not like long, but just give it some more details in the head. Would be really nice. And hands are really hard. I get that. But this is funny. Um, I would, if you're struggling with hands, I would say, I mean, just go ahead and download a hand model and stitch it on or something. Like that in my mind, that's totally not cheating. You've that's that's worth it. So I would just replace the hands. I mean, you got some deformation issues in the fingers here too. So that would be an easy way to just make it feel more realistic. Um, and yeah, man, I think this is awesome work. And the so this lady's using a sword. Wait, are these the same? I think they're the same thing, but on here it like comes down at an angle, whereas here it's straight. I mean, I'm sure there's an explanation. I'm just if you know, you know the story and the elements of the weapon and things, but it's a little confusing, for me at least. But wow, awesome job and really, really, really nice anatomy and proportions and modeling. So that's excellent work, and this is going to be our little intermission. Probably won't be more than 1 or 2 minutes, maybe three. So we'll see you on the other side. Probably won't be more than 1 or 2 minutes, maybe three. So we'll see you on the other side. Probably won't be more than 1 or 2 minutes, maybe three. So we'll see you on the other side. 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 We'll see you on the other side.
It's YouTube Music. Download the app today and get a trial of Music Premium on us. Restrictions apply. It's YouTube Music. Download the app today and get a trial of Music Premium on us.
Alright, welcome back. Got everything else set up for these last few critiques. And here we go. Thank you for your patience, and let's get back into it. OJ, nice keyboard. Wow, I think it's like, there's, I'm struggling to get back into the flow of this, but the lighting and stuff is so good, but like, the keys are green. I don't know. I'm sure you did it on purpose, and it's just, it's just funny, dude. Also, I would put letters on the keys. I know this sounds like kind of dumb and obvious, but it really isn't a keyboard till, you know, you have letters on the keys so you know what to type. An easy way to do that, which will be my helpful suggestion, because you know, that wasn't super helpful, is if you go to top view and look down and then go into edit mode of all these keys, right? You need to be in the same, they need to be in the same object, and you project from view, then you'll get the UV layout as it's looking from the top, which would allow you to just import any picture of a keyboard layout and just position it over all the keys, so that you don't have to individually map the text and the, you know, the numbers to the keys. You could just get them all on at once if you had it all laid out, and then just put it all on at the same time using a project from view, which is a good strategy for stuff like keyboards. You also have the like switches underneath, which is super cool. So it's like RGB. I mean, I don't really know how keyboards work, but I think it'd be sweet also if you kind of modeled some of the internal like circuitry and stuff. That's just an idea, but that could really help, you know, make it more interesting. You know, I'm not totally sure what the, you know, what the vibe I'm supposed to be getting from the keyboard is. I think if you somehow, you know, tried to have it like tell a story, like if you put it in a, I mean, there's so many things you could, you know, you could do with it. You could put it on like a futuristic desk with like a, one of those fancy like heads-up display monitor things. There's very sci-fi like. You could also kind of make it a little more rustic and like put it on a wooden desk with like books, or there's so many different options. But when it's just like white, it just doesn't sparkle as much, you know what I mean? So I think, yeah, I mean, you got the layout perfectly, and it's great modeling. But try and project from view to get some letters on, and also, like, make sure you don't just like ignore things. Like, this is just totally black. It almost looks like there's just a shader with nothing hooked up to it. Even if you just use this wood from the bottom on here, which I think would look awesome. Like, just keep this wood texture, slap it up here. I mean, that would just really make it cooler looking, you know? So keep that stuff in mind. But I think this one is, you know, more interesting for sure, because you've got like the switches, you can see underneath the mechanism. So you've got some good stuff going on, but just try and, you know, each project you do, just bring it to the next level. Keep pushing forward, and you know, eventually stuff like this will just pop really well. So good work to you, and good luck with computer graphics, and we will see you around in future streams or in chat, hopefully. So awesome stuff. And I really like the creativity of these LEDs, so very, very nice. We're going to keep this rolling with a render by Baz. Baz said in the Render Roast submission chat that he's a beginner and this is one of his first renders. So, dang, dude, if that's true, this is ridiculously awesome. I mean, you've got so much stuff going on, and it like really tells a story, which I think a lot of people don't focus on, especially if they're just trying to learn the technical aspects of Blender. But you've really got a nice render here. Let me just close the door real quick. So, for the sand, you have these pebbles, which are, I mean, the right choice for sure. It looks amazingly good. But then the dirt itself definitely has these bumps, which you can see. I would scale those up so that it feels more like sand. Right now it feels like really hard, dry, you know, desert clay, hard dirt. But if you scaled those up and kind of increase the strength, you might be able to get a little more sandy feeling. Yeah. The sand is, sand is kind of a challenge to make. I've definitely played with that before, and I think you did a really good job, but try and, I mean, that's the main thing on it. And also sand, oftentimes, in deserts that I've been to at least, in sand dune areas, have kind of black patches. So maybe if you add some patches of more rusty colored, like not black, just like rusty colored sand, that kind of sweep through here. That could be cool, but not necessary, of course. The main focus of this is the helmet, and dang, you nailed it. Like, wow, these fingerprints, super excellent. And the dirt, I mean, man, you were just really got that down. One thing that I would think texture-wise is one of the few things that could improve the helmet is you could use like the ambient occlusion node with the sand to like when it's closer to the sand, have it kind of a little grungier, dirtier. Right now it's clean. It's the same level of cleanness up here as it is down here, which just isn't how it would be. Like make the bottom where the sand is dirtier and kind of have it fade upwards, which could be super nice. But dude, wow, I mean, this is excellent work, especially for someone who's newer. So keep it up, and I'm really impressed. Here we go. This is DJ Eruhulu. Sorry if I pronounced that a little bit off, but I think it's DJ Eruhulu. There we go. Thank you, DJ Eruhulu, for this render. Black in white, white in black. Ooh, so it's definitely kind of the yin yang vibe. I like it. There's not a ton going on, which could be one of the things you work on. Like, I mean, you know, signs like this, I've got like okay, you do have wires down here, but like having some, you know, pole sticking up with like bunch of wires coming down and then like another one could be super cool. And like birds and stuff. Okay, that looks like plant or something. But like a little birdie, um, and make it feel more lifelike, you know, just like kind of give it that little special, lots of little things to, I mean, help make the story of it, in my opinion. I really like. I can tell that yeah, you've done the pixel thing where you like, yeah, you've done the pixel thing. I don't know what else to call it. But that looks awesome. So really good job with that. I mean, it looks great. You've got it up here too. That's really, really, really nice. The wires are glowing, which is cool, but you should add a ton more of them in like different colors and stuff. You've got so much like potential here with these wires. So much potential, dude. Um, but like have some hanging off, like just all over the place. That would be so cool. I mean, yeah, I guess what I have to say about this is you did a really nice job, and but it's simple enough right now that it doesn't really just bring as much as it could. If you just went ham with like wires and really just decorating it, that would be super, super cool. So, really nice job, dude, and you did a great job with these details of like the, um, I don't know, yeah, pixels look super nice, but you could definitely bring it to the next level with some things like that. Thank you so much, Eruhulu. And I saw that this was originally the file's name CG Matter. So maybe this came from a CG Matter tutorial, which if so, that is amazing. I mean, he's absolutely hilarious. So you're a man of culture, and keep it up. Thank you so much for submitting this, and really, really nice job. Okay, this is another one from JC. JC, you really like blue, I feel like. All your renders got this just gorgeous light blue shade, which I'm not complaining about. I think it's really, really nice. It's just a trend I've noticed. And I feel like this is from a while ago. Like when you know people are doing that procedural planet stuff. It looks really nice. The atmosphere just hits different. I mean, it's perfect. The lens glare from the sun, it's just super nice, dude. And like the wow. I don't have a ton to say about this one. But it's really clean, dude, and just you've got some really nice like contrast and stuff. Just it's a good image. So I really like it. And it's got like enough detail that I can keep looking at it for like a long time and still be interested, which is really impressive. Like all these little things, because even though it seems simple, it really does have some nuance. So that is excellent work. We're gonna not spend a ton of time on this one, because we still have videos to do after this, which will take a few minutes, but thank you for submitting, and it looks great. This is Birdie Bronze. Yes, Birdie, dude. Okay, this is awesome. I gotta say, you've been making some serious gains with CG. Like, I mean, it just looks really good. You've got like, you've made a lot of models, and I think this is one of your best that I've ever seen for sure. Like you've done some really nice texturing in here, and it's just super clean. Like the attention to detail, like the way it gets burned up here as it goes back, because you know that's where the flame comes out. It's excellent, dude. you've got really, really nice stuff going on. And I think overall with your artwork, the biggest thing that can be improved is just the lighting and presentation. And I think that's been a trend for a while, for me personally, seeing in your work. So gray backgrounds just don't do this model justice. Because it's good and you need it. It should be more interesting, you know. So, I mean, the easiest way to improve that is just slap on an HDRI, kind of maybe blur a little bit in beforehand or in post processing, and just use an HDRI rather than these point lights. That's really the biggest thing. That'll add so much more detail to these surfaces because you get all the reflections from the environments, and it just highlights the model and the textures. Everything's so much better. So that's, I mean, dude, you've really been improving. So excellent work and keep it up, and just make sure you focus on lighting. That's really the big thing for you. But dang, this is solid. Thank you so much, Birdie, for dropping that by. Okay, this Marcos Torres is amazing. It's literally one of the best artworks I've ever seen put out of Blender, or anywhere really. Like, you capture like this. It's just beautiful, man. The way, dude, it's so good. Your use of color, how back here it's light, and like the contrast with the dog and this lady, is just gorgeous. Also, wow, you did really good modeling on her. And the hair, the bird too. I didn't even notice the bird. It's just another detail. Dang. Wow. Like, I'm trying to find things that are wrong with it, but I just can't. Okay. The rock, look, if we're being super nitpicky, the rock could have like more like interesting texture, I guess. And these plants, now that I'm seeing them up close, I don't know, it could be a little more vibrant. Maybe just have a little more irregularity. They're all kind of, you know, same oval shape, which is fine. But oh my gosh, this is so nice. Like, it conveys like this sense of motion with the dog jumping, and wow, okay, I mean, I'm just gonna sit here, you know, praising this all day if I could, but it's excellent work, dude, and your artistic skill is through the roof. So amazing work, and I hope you're getting the credit you deserve online and in communities for this sort of good stuff, because wow, it's incredible. Yeah, I just don't I don't have anything. I don't have anything for it. It's too good, man. You beat the game. All right. This is Mr. Guacado, and I read in the chat that you've been getting back into Blender after a little while gone. I think that's what I remember. So this is nice. It's really clean. For me, okay, you just got lighting and grass. That's two things that are, I mean, it's just, that's what's holding this back. Also, it's kind of hard to tell if this is like outside or if it's like in some like inside area, if that makes sense. So even if it's at night, like use an outside HDRI, keep it really, just try and make sure you get enough contrast in your lighting that stuff really gets interesting. You want more intense shadows maybe. get some highlights, like in more highlights. You got a few here, but they're not even close to full white. And there's also in the grass. Yeah, it looks okay. It's alright, but I think it's pretty clear that it's a very similar pack. What you could do that would be very easy and pretty cool because it's a new feature is to in Blender 2.82 there's a new feature in the object. I forget if it's the object info node or the geometry node, but basically it's called random per island, and it's if you have a bunch of if these might all be part of the same object but then just scattered around, or a few of them at a time, I don't know, but you can change the color individually within objects for meshes that are not connected. And if these are just separate mesh objects that are being scattered around, you should use the just random of object info to give them color variation, which really just helps. Color variation is always the right move. And in the particle settings, you can use procedural textures like noise and stuff for different densities and lengths and thicknesses in the hair settings. So I would do that and kind of mess with that to try and get it just a little more scraggly, but like in a good way. That's an important thing. And I guess, so I'm feeling, the scale of the scene is slightly confusing because the bevels and the material of this object make it feel like it's kind of like a, I don't know, 10-inch toy, but then the grass is really small. So like if this was outside, it would be like 15, I mean maybe not 15, but like 10 feet rather than like 10 inches. But then that plastic material doesn't really hold up if that's the case. So I would say you got to mentally decide whether or not if it's really small or really big, and then adjust other parts of the scene to kind of emphasize that. Like if it was small, if you wanted it to be a small model like a toy, then I would kind of make it almost like an inside thing with like, you could put like a candy wrapper for scale, or like a marble, like really there's a lot of stuff you could do to just show the viewer how big it is and what's going on. And if you wanted it to be really big, then I'd use like an outdoor scene with like outdoor lighting and use wear and tear, paint it in, or use Substance Painter, or just use Blender. Make it metallic, because nothing that big is plastic really. So just focus on the context of how it really is, you know, if it was a real thing, how it would be feeling and what it would look like. So I think really good stuff, and I definitely know how it feels to come back from a little hiatus with Blender and try and jump back in, and I think this is an awesome way to do it. So thank you so much for your submission, and we'll see you around. This is by Pokey Wizard. It's like an arcade. I like it. I think it's a really nice idea and stuff, but there's just a few kind of more basic things that you could do to just help it out, you know? Number one for me would be beveling these corners, and like it's just kind of boxy, you know? So beveling it, softening it out, because it's cool if you want a kind of more cartoony vibe. Like that's totally legit. It doesn't have to be realistic, which might be a long jump, but kind of creating a more soft, cartoony feeling would really require beveling these edges so that they're just not so sharp. And also, work on lighting for sure. I see you've got a light up here, but maybe have some, area lights up here shining down on each one, or like a light over here kind of shining and giving them all some interest. Lighting is really an important thing. So I wouldn't say it's bad. It's pretty okay, but especially if it's going to be a little cartoonier, you want to emphasize that a lot and kind of maybe even go overboard so that it really feels good. Along with that, I think that the colors are very, very dull. I'm going to do the levels thing again and just show you that. So you've got a ton of darks, which you can see in here. Okay, I don't know if you can see it because it's a floating window. So I'm just going to adjust it and show you. If I bring this slider up, it gets so much more vivid and interesting. Almost feels like, kind of like a game, like a video game, sort of. I don't know how to describe it, like a kind of a pixel art video game feel, which is really cool. And then, I mean, damn, I think already, just that kind of shows what lighting can do, just if you really accent that and make it pop, that'll help it a lot. So I'd say you've got some really creative, interesting ideas, but focus on kind of stylizing it more, like beveling it and lighting, and so that it really just is more interesting to the eye. So thank you, dude. That is our last still image critique of the day. I'm gonna pull up the other videos, so give me a second and we will be right back on. The other videos, so give me a second and we will be right back on. The other videos, so give me a second and we'll be right back. Still image in there, so let's get that rolling. Alright, here's some music. There we go. This is also by what's the name? Sorry, dude. DJ Eruhulu. It looks great, man. I love this. It's got that. Your other one was kind of lacking that, just that pop and that excitement. But this really has it. You got these smoke. I feel like it's kind of like a default Cube Factory. Like, that's how I'm interpreting it. So cool. Radioactiveness is always welcome. Oh, let's make that bigger. Love the radioactive. And just kind of the dispersion. Some people might think it's over the top, but I think for something like this, it's really cool. It's visually super nice, but it's like, it's hard to tell what this thing is doing. Okay, it's a light, so I'm just gonna go through kind of the story of what I think is happening in this scene. I could be wrong, but this is how I'm interpreting it. So like, we're kind of inside a cube already, and it's like radioactively cooking, like preparing this cube, like in a factory or something maybe. And you got these like dishes like beaming it and stuff, getting it ready. I don't know. It's a cool idea. It is a little bit, just a little bit vague. So, I mean that's okay. It's cool to leave your viewer guessing, and it does have enough visual elements that you look at it long enough to like start guessing, which is a good thing. You know, if someone's just randomly looking at this, they'd probably look at it for a solid amount and try and figure out what's going on, which is, I mean, it's a win, really. I think technical aspects of this render, you should always use smooth shading. I mean, I'm seeing flat shading here and here and here, which just isn't, I mean, there's no reason to be using flat shading, you know. Just smooth it out, use a bevel. That'll just instantly bring it to the next level. Also, the materials of this base could be like a cool reflective thing. I mean, that's just an idea. But yeah, I think technically the biggest thing. Oh, I actually really like the reflectiveness of this and how it reflects off. That's gorgeous. Very nice. So keep that there. Maybe try and do a similar thing with in here, because that's really nice. And in here, I see it again. If you had it in here with like the cube, I mean, that would just look so good. Dang, I'm really drawing all over these. That's okay though. And this smoke, excellent. I think I commented that first thing. Looks so nice. So amazing job. And in terms of color, you know, you've got all the colors. You've got pink, blue. I mean, okay, not all the colors, but you got like a bunch of colors, right? I might suggest that you color this light too, and like all the light, whatever the fill light is that's illuminating most of the scene, should have some color too, because like you've got all these cool colors, but then it's just like white, and it feels kind of, I don't know if this makes sense, it kind of feels anticlimactic. Like there should be more vividness in these lights. That's my suggestion for kind of filling it up more with color, keeping it interesting. So yes, now we're going to move on to videos. Thank you so much. Forgot your name, but thank you. This is an awesome render, and glad that you submitted it. We'll be right back with the videos. Glad that you submitted it. We'll be right back with the videos. Glad that you submitted it. We'll be right back with the videos. Glad that Alright fellas, we're back. I'm gonna just switch over this source and let's see. It's looking blank for me, so I couldn't figure out the window capture for that, so we're just going into display capture. And here we go with Explosion Test by Swordcrafter. Okay, I'm gonna put this in slow-mo right away. Okay, so in my mind, explosions kind of have three like distinct parts, right? You've got this first part where it's really the combustion, which you nailed. And as it's dissipating, I think it looks good too. Nothing wrong so far. And then just kind of the smoke as it rises. Well, it looks awesome, dude. I'm not a huge simulation dude, so I'm not extremely well versed in this stuff, but I would say that after an explosion like this, it's just kind of a cool effect. If you maybe have like a wind force field, just really blow it away, kind of finish it off strong, with some excitement. So, okay, explosion and disappearing. This is excellent. I mean, it looks great. The shader really feels realistic and grounded. Yeah, like in here, instead of just letting it rise, you could always just like whisk it off, but it does seem pretty solid. So I guess I'm no master at this stuff, so I don't think I can, you know, critique a ton, but it really does seem like a solid start. And maybe have some like shrapnel stuff like flying off, like down here, like fiery. That's often, you know, if something explodes, it's gonna send off, you know, crazy stuff. So that would be something to add if you're wanting to continue it. But in terms of the explosion itself, like solid, very solid. So thank you, Swordcrafter. And here we go with whoops, that's not right. Darn. Here we go. These ones are by Abysma again, thank you. You got so many entries today. Appreciate the participation. Where am I? Okay, here we go. Nice animation. Alright, I think first thing is that they're all using the exact same animation data and walking the exact same. Which is okay, but I think it'd be cool if they like came out at different times. Just give more variation. Variation is really the key to an interesting project. And also, just this black, I'd make this background black so it just seems like outer space. That's just me. I mean, right now it's very feeling like it's just hard to know where they're supposed to be. So if you kind of gave it some context, you could even like put a jungle background or like a tree line, which I mean that would be sweet. But in terms of animation, which is really the focus of this, just keep it varied. That's really most of what I gotta say. And also, you know, like that smoky Star Wars effect when like something lands and like doors open, totally do that. Like a smoke billowing out. That would be super, super, super cool. So, that's just a suggestion. And, I mean, that would just add interest, of course. So, thank you for that. Just keep everything varied is what I gotta say most. Your next one is like a rocket ship. Ooh, flames. Oh, so this is like the previous part to the other one where it's landing. That's really cool. So now I see the context of the buildings. That makes a lot more sense. That's really good to see. I think just in terms of general physics, it's got to be slow and like, I mean, if it landed at that speed, I mean, all those guys would just like fall out, you know, and die. Make sure you, because okay, so the thing is thrusting it upwards to try and like counteract the gravity, so it slows down in time, which is what rocket ships, you know, do. But slow it down as it comes down, not only for like the realistic how physics works, but for like the drama of it, you know, the dramatic as it just comes down, the doors open, they slowly walk out. That would be so cool. Right now it feels a little bit rushed. In terms of the animation. Also, just kind of as a, I mean, maybe a little videography thing, like having the camera be a little rotated, not so parallel, and kind of shaking more, and rotating and stuff would really just help like it feel kind of less controlled and maybe a little more dangerous, which would be really cool. So that's what I've got to say for these. I'm not a huge master of, you know, I've never done animation, so I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it that I'm missing. So forgive me for that, but I think this is really cool, and those are just some of my suggestions. And Project Red. I don't know who this is by, let's see. Okay. So I think for any one of these frames, I can just critique it like a still image, if we're being honest, but I want to see who this is from, so... It is from... Ponix here. Thank you, Ponix here, for the submission. Let's see. The moon. Okay. So... I think the moon really... It kind of looks like a moon if you made it out of, like, clay. Try and brighten up... Try and work on the material. The bumpiness and, like... That looks super realistic. I don't know if that's like a real moon scan or if you like made that texture yourself. But dang, that looks really nice, I gotta say. But in terms of the material itself, it needs maybe more roughness so it's not, you don't get this highlight right here. Because I mean, it would be really spread out. The highlight would be not so concentrated. And maybe have some, like, because the moon doesn't have atmosphere, so it wouldn't have any atmospheric scattering. But you could still give it some bloom, like in the compositor, just as a camera effect, which would look super cool. So that's just an idea. And you do have some chromatic aberration down here, which I really, really like. I'll just go up here. Especially for a space camera where it's like far away. That really feels perfect. Just the amount of that is just right. So I think really good work, but I would keep working on the material. And it's simple, but it's good. And maybe, honestly, you could just add like the earth in here, like shining through, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, how like the planets layer on each other. Obviously, that's changing it up quite a bit, but I think it would be really interesting. So it's good stuff. The one technical thing is the material. Just look at reference of the moon photos, see how the light plays with it, scatters across the surface. Make sure you try and recreate that accurately. But man, other than that, it is solid. So awesome work, and I actually think that is our last entry in today's stream. So anyone who is here and watching, thank you so much, and it has been an absolute pleasure. So enjoy your day, and we'll see you next time.